Welcome on into the Josh Reese Show. I am your host, Josh Reese, and we have got to talk about the Houston Texans' massive win over the Tennessee Jobbers. They are not called Titans, they are called the Jobbers now. The Houston Texans destroyed them Sunday afternoon to the tune of 57 points. Excuse me, I shorted the Texans 2 points. 57-14. And it was probably not that close. The Texans could have scored on the Titans at will, and I really felt like they kind of took the pedal off the metal towards the end of the game, and yet they still put up 20 points in the fourth quarter. Insane. Insanely incredible day for the Houston Texans. Franchise best 57 points. It still seems very, very crazy to think that the Houston Texans put up 57 points after they got almost blanked from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They only put up 7 points against the Jaguars, and then week 2 they only put up 13 points against the terrible Cincinnati Bengals, and yet 2 weeks later they put up 57 points. 57 points! It was pretty much a college afternoon for Deshaun Watson, as he finished with 4 touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown, 5 touchdowns overall. Insane. He finished with 283 yards on 25 completions and an overall 125 passer rating. Deshaun Watson had himself a mother flippin' game. It was a pleasure to see. I will say that there are still a few throws that I think Deshaun Watson should be very, very mindful of, including his turnover at the end of the first half. But there's a lot of throws where they're like 50-50 balls in basketball. One person's going to make it, the other person's going to make it. More often than not, those are going in Deshaun Watson's favors. But eventually, I do worry, at least in my own mind, that he needs to start being a little bit mindful of that so he doesn't have as many risks as you would say. The best throws are the throws where only the receiver can get them, and there's at least a few throws a game where it's only the receiver and the defensive back that can get those passes. And luckily, they have not hurt Deshaun Watson so much, but that is something that I think he should be a little bit wary of. One of the things I did find fairly entertaining in Sunday's game was Deshaun Watson was taken out of the game towards the end of the fourth quarter, mainly because the Texans had this massive, ginormous lead. But the Texans brought in Tom Savage, and what happened? Instantly, Tom Savage was sacked. I find that I can't even describe how crazy that is. Deshaun Watson had been doing whatever he wanted all game long. Tom Savage comes in, gets instantly sacked. Well, I guess we understand why Tom Savage is no longer the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans. Deshaun Watson has whatever you want to call it, wiggle. He has some magic. He has that X factor, but for whatever it is, he is not taking as many sacks, and it hasn't really been a factor since week 1 when he took over from Tom Savage. He's gotten progressively better each and every week, and it as funny as it sounds, it doesn't even feel like we have reached anywhere near the pinnacle of Deshaun Watson's greatness. It still feels like this is we're riding a train and it just keeps on going up and up and up and up and up. I don't really see where it's going to start plateauing off. That's how crazy it is. It's very strange to see. Everyone hyped the Tennessee Titans defense, and Deshaun Watson made them look like a Division II school that Alabama was facing. He was able to get whatever he wanted, and it was great all game long. One of the things that I should mention, at least for Deshaun Watson's favor, was they did get the return of Will Fuller, which helped kind of give the Texans a little bit more of a deep threat and give defenses a little bit something to respect. And with Deshaun Watson having that big arm, he did take a couple shots at Will Fuller down the field, and one of them ended up being a penalty in the end zone, near the end zone. I can't remember. I think it was in the end zone, which turned into a score. So this is now a threat for the Houston Texans, something they didn't really have before. And as long as Will Fuller stays healthy, this is going to be something that defenses are going to have to contend with. And with Will Fuller kind of help spreading the field, DeAndre Hopkins had his first 100-yard catching game of the season this week. 10 catches for 107 yards. Deshaun Watson was able to find DeAndre Hopkins plenty of times. And the hookup looks good. I'll just tell you that. Very good. One of the other things that was a good thing in Sunday's win was also the running game also started to get going a little bit. Lamar Miller had 19 carries for 75 yards, and Deontay Foreman had 13 carries for 45 yards. Still not getting off at a massive clip. You know, they're still not carrying the ball. They're still not rushing it like I'm sure they wish they could, but without Dwayne Brown and pretty much B and C guys as your offensive linemen, I think the Houston Texans are doing as best as they can. And if there's any indicator of just of what Deshaun Watson brings to the Houston Texans, certainly that first play from Tom Savage when he took over in the fourth quarter was kind of a culmination of that. Deshaun Watson, 1 sack all game long. Tom Savage comes in, 1 sack in this first or second play he plays. And then right after the Texans start running the ball. Very, very interesting. So Deshaun Watson has certainly made the offensive line better because he's able to slip and kind of move around in the pocket. So kudos to Deshaun Watson there. The Houston Texans defense also was able to pick off both Marcus Mariota and Matt Castle, because Marcus Mariota left in the first half, or he left after the first half. I think he had a pulled hammy or something like that. So Matt Castle came in, and he did an even poorer job than Marcus Mariota. And, the Texans defense had a field day against him. Didn't have many sacks, not a lot of sacks for the Houston Texans against the Tennessee Jobbers. Dylan Cole had a sack. Jadeveon Clowney had a sack. J.J. Watt still sackless, but it was the interceptions. The Texans had. Michael Gilchrist had one, and who else? It wasn't Corey Moore. Jesus. It's going to kill me. I think it was Andre Howell that had 2 interceptions. So the defense certainly looked pretty good. They were able to keep the Titans pretty much in check all game long. Marcus Mariota had the 2 nice runs. But aside from that, they were able to pretty much squash the Tennessee Titans. So as it looks, the Houston Texans are going to be heading into a game against the Kansas City Chiefs with a little bit of momentum. They held tough against the Patriots, barely losing on the road to the Patriots, and now they just totally Andre Johnson and Cortland Finnegan, the Tennessee Jobbers. So they're going to be having their heads hanging high for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's pretty much all I got on today's episode. I appreciate everyone for giving this a listen. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like, a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. Also, feel free to share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would appreciate that. And also, let me know what you thought about Sunday's game against the Tennessee Jobbers. Did you think that this was... of course, you know that the Houston Texans now have a quarterback. But, I mean, how impressed were you with what Deshaun Watson was able to do? He didn't have 300 yards like he did against the Patriots, but he had 4 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns if you include the touchdown run, which I guess you should. So let me know what you think about Deshaun Watson and the Texans overall. Are you starting to feel a little bit better about the Texans season after these last 2 games? So I appreciate everyone for giving this a listen, and we will be back soon. Thank you for listening to the Josh REESE Show. I'm, of course, your host, Mr. Joshua, and we will catch you next time, Houston.